Ay, perdón, perdón, perdón. Hi, good afternoon. I'd like to say hi to everybody. We are now live in our event to present our Google Cloud platform. We are going to give a few seconds to our English channel to be ready, and then we'll begin with our interesting event. You can see Sara Núñez over there. She created the foundation Dream to Succeed, Soñar para Crecer, and our guest today, Alejandro Alferez. Hi. Hi, nice to meet you. So, Sara, we're now live. You can begin your presentation. Thanks, Edgar and Alejandro, for joining us here with our members of the Soñar es Crecer, Dream to Succeed Foundation. We are happy because it's been a year since we started working together as talents in the areas of science, data mining, mathematics, business, and we have a mission together, which is to share new knowledge about emerging technologies that are actually transforming companies. And of course, these require talent, like the talents of those who are joining us here today, in order to move forward in the digital transformation that will take us to a new era where our quality of life as people should be the priority. So I'm very pleased to be here today. I think we have around 3,000 people joining us through our social media. And our focus will be to talk about our own growth and create job opportunities for everybody. So this event will be streamed by Esteno Chile in English. So that is why our social media are also streaming this event for our English speaker friends. So we would like to thank them to join us and help us reach English speaking audiences. So today we're going to talk about the cloud computing, one of the critical components of the digital transformation of companies. So we have focused in this new technology because, as we can see today, as part of this digital transformation, when we talk about artificial intelligence, singularity, these changes mean creating new capabilities. Capabilities we should have to be able to support our companies or the companies we dream to join. I was saying that for 2022, it is expected for 58 new jobs to be created. And this is part of that transformation. If you're looking for a job, I'm sure you have noticed that the requirements are changing and we need new knowledge. So I think that's the opportunity we're aiming at. And that is why our main goal is for all of you to learn from these new topics in order to find new opportunities to get a certification, to move forward in your career and get rid of poverty, because that's the main goal. If you work hard, it multiplies for your family, those around you. You're moving the needle as part of the global economy. You are key for that, so that's why we're focusing on you. So, new jobs are being created, but also jobs are disappearing as technology moves forward. Processes become automated for production to be faster at a lower cost, because that is always the goal of companies. And We are also creating new products and services that require artificial intelligence for devices to be smart, for machines and computers to be smart. So, as some jobs are going to disappear, jobs we dreamt of, new jobs will be created. And that's what brings us here today. As part of this digital transformation, we are going to need new capabilities, new abilities. We need to learn about these emerging technologies and topics like the cloud. So, when we talk about AI, about machine learning, about learning machines how to think, how to make decisions, that's very interesting as well, because that's how we create new products. We also need to talk about virtual reality, where maybe the future of education lies there, the future of agriculture as well. It is a new technology that requires new capabilities. The Internet of Things, we need to understand that because that's how we make machines smart. Is it the fridge, your computer, your phone? We are talking about robotics as well because we need to learn to work with robots. Can you imagine working at a factory where 50% of the workforce is robots and the other 50% are humans? So we need to learn how to work with machines. There are many trends like intelligent cities, blockchain, cybersecurity. All these new topics are required for you to move forward in your career. So you need to have the capabilities that companies require. So that's our goal in Dream to Succeed. Today we're talking about cloud computing. If you want to be part of this stream, we invite you to become a member of Dream to Succeed. Invite your contacts to join us. We want to have the biggest network of Latin people worldwide where we can help each other. You can work as a volunteer for our foundation. You can become a mentor for the new generations that join this world. You can also donate so we can provide scholarships to these students so they can learn. So that's my message. And I will give the floor to Edgar and Alejandro that have a lot to tell you. Thank you, Edgar, for allowing me to speak today. Thank you, Sarah, for that introduction. And with no further ado, let's begin today's talk, an interesting talk. Sarah, I hope you can stay with us. Now I'm going to share the presentation. So, before we begin, I'm going to share my screen. I think you all can see it now. So, we are proud to start this presentation with the collaboration of Google. One of our guests today, it's a speaker from Google. He works for the company. So I'm pleased to have him with us today, this special guest that is helping us so we can provide you with the best content available. So today we're going to talk about Google Cloud, this platform, which is one of the platforms with the highest growth in the market. Alejandro will talk about the platform growth because it is unbelievable. And we're going to cover various topics. I'm Edgar Rivera, for those of you who don't know me. I'm a technical leader in the world of software engineering. I'm also a speaker and technology director of the foundation Soñar es Crecer, Dream to Succeed. And as Sarah said, we promote engineering and science and maths. So cloud is basically engineering. It is a hot topic today, and that is why we wanted to give this talk and share with you part of our experience, our knowledge, the knowledge I've acquired working with big corporations in Europe, and in the last few years as a Google Cloud architect in particular. So Alejandro, if you can introduce yourself too. Of course. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here to talk about this dynamic platform and even beyond Google, tell you more about this technology and why this change is so important. About myself, I'm from Bogota, Colombia. I used to work for Dell Corporation. I was working with on-premise systems. I also worked with AI and on-premise systems. So I'm happy to be here to give you this talk. And please, if you have any questions, please write them on our Q&A system, and let's begin. Thank you, Alejandro. So we're going to go back to your presentation. We have many Colombians here. Sara is also from the Colombian coast. So let's see the presentation and move forward with the talk. So this is the agenda for today. We're going to talk about Google Cloud Platform, about containers, what's Kubernetes and GKE, and how to begin your career on the cloud. And finally, we will talk about the Innovation Center of Dream to Succeed. So, Alejandro, please tell us more about this platform whenever you're ready. Of course. Before talking about the platform in particular, I would like to comment that companies are increasingly digitizing their operations. If the company you work for has a specific plan, so first you need to know if they do, and if they don't have one, you should push for this digital integration to occur. We have a few figures here. For 2022, we expect 70% of enterprises to integrate some sort of cloud management across private or public clouds. To give you an example, a private system could be VMware, where you have your own hypervisor yours on your server, or maybe some tool. If you have a system like SAS. So by 2024, it is expected for 50% of all IT spending in companies in general to go toward digital transformation and cloud transformation. And by 2025, we expect 90% of new enterprise apps to have some sort of AI. And that, of course, is highly based on the cloud and cloud systems. So to provide you with some background about cloud computing, this was created by Google. You can see we compare it to a car with wings. That's how Google was born. It was born on the clouds, but it has wheels to be able to land. We don't need a re-engineering because by being born on the cloud, every application and cloud application are digital natives. So it means they need no re-engineering. And so the cloud is pretty agile. So the various applications, like the ones you're seeing on the screen, we have Google Maps, Gmail, Google Photos. All these apps have over 1 billion users. I'm sure you know YouTube, Android services, Drive, all the products Google offers, most of them free of charge. We have more than 11 products with over 1 billion users. So Google knows how to work on the cloud and also how to scale up services. Because I think that's a main issue. People think about the cloud. They think I could have a server or a small project. But when it scales up, then people get a little afraid. So that is why Google is good. I know we're here to talk about the cloud, so this is not just about Google, Amazon, or Microsoft. They also provide services in this environment, so people will be willing to join the cloud. So, something important to consider, and I talked about this earlier, is that a lot of machine learning is already embedded in our products. In this is very transparent. The user knows this integration exists. They don't see any difference in processing the users. So these clouds or systems we have, such as the search engine or Android, keyboards, we have AI where every user input is being analyzed. For example, I'm sure you know the Photos app. You can search dog pictures, for example, and you get the feedback automatically. It identifies pictures with dogs. Or Maps, for example, gives you suggestions about restaurants or gas stations. Gmail, maybe you've noticed that while you're writing, it suggests phrases. That's also machine learning. So as these services evolve, we need a more dynamic system. And I think that one of the main misconceptions is that the cloud is a data center somewhere else. And yeah, that's partly true, but it has the data center, but also the engineering and the dynamics you wouldn't have in an internal system. So because I work for Google, I have to say that this is one of the clouds with fewer limitations for the user. Our competitors tend to feel they need to keep their users trapped in a way. That means they can migrate to another cloud or work with other clouds at the same time. But in Google, we're focused on the user and the quality of the service we provide. So to give you some examples, we have a product called Antus, where you can manage all your clouds through Microsoft Azure, Amazon. It's one shop to manage all these platforms. Because we don't want you to stay on the cloud if you don't need it anymore, but we want you to keep your data while using other clouds. So it's very friendly. We also have Google BigQuery, which is very good for analytics. It's a data warehousing service, which mainly translates into keeping a lot of data. You can ask a different query, and so companies can access insights or analytics in a faster and easier way, just with one product. So innovation is at the core of Google. So I think that's interesting about the company. You will never think we can't use this or that app because it's being updated. No, Google is always innovating, and I think that's what makes a difference because our cloud is being updated uh, continuously because that's what we like to do, keep everything up to date. And I'm going to talk about this a little later. What makes us different? First, security. I think that's one of the main issues. When you decide to switch to the cloud, you need to know that security is a shared responsibility from Google and the client. So Google does its part. To give you a little more information, Google owns its own network. I will talk about that later again in more detail. As I said, we are a hybrid cloud. We enjoy working with other clouds. We are not anti-Amazon. or anti-Microsoft, we like to collaborate, and we have many services that require almost no interaction with the user. We can also manage data that you're going to upload to the cloud, such as Cloud SQL, for example. We're going to talk about GKE. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry. I'm here today to explain you what this is. And we have some sort of AI and machine learning incorporated in all of our services. So we have a lot of intelligence embedded in our products. And we also have the culture that's important when you choose a cloud service. It is key for every customer to have a partner that helps you through this digital migration. And we are aware of that as a company, of the importance of that. So, talking about security, those lines you see on the map, those are Google networks. We have physical cables running through different continents underwater or above water. Here you can see how we install these connections. The one you're seeing there crosses the Pacific Ocean. It goes to Asia from North America, and even sharks like Google, as you can see. That cable needed to be changed because for some reason it was too sweet, the covering, so it was replaced. And you need to know that Google owns 40% of the internet. I don't mean it's mine, no one else can use it. What I'm saying is that we are in charge of security, updates, and maintenance of internet hardwares and softwares. So that's something unique to us. So there are many clouds that use the network. So they use our network. And so for the cloud, the most important thing is connection. 'Cause without connections, we wouldn't have a cloud. Because, of course, if you can't connect to the cloud, you can't use it. This is interesting because the network matters. We have your typical cloud provider. They have the data, and they have an issue called hot potato. I don't know if you've heard that. And of course, it means if they don't want to have some data package because it's a hot potato, they uh, give it to another vendor. With Google Cloud, it's the opposite. We don't want it to be out of our network because this means it's cheaper for the customer and it's also more secure because we have up to 7 layers of protection for data. Data is always encrypted in our server, and as it moves through the network until reaching the ISP, which is the internet service provider, the company that provides you the internet service before reaching the final user. So, on the other hand, we have this hybrid aspect to us because it's not just about loading anything to the cloud. People or companies have invested in hardware and that could be lost. But because the cloud is friendlier, we enjoy working with hybrid solutions where you can run the software on the existing hardware. And so applications can behave dynamically and run on the cloud or wherever you want. That's also important. Some people are afraid of the cloud because they don't know how to connect both things, on-premise services and cloud services. So here you know that you don't need to migrate everything to the cloud. You can start small, and actually that's what we suggest whenever a customer gets in touch with us. So it's important to remember you don't need to change everything. You can migrate small sections. So I think the hybrid solution is very important. And we're talking about SQL later, but so now we're going to talk about machine learning and artificial intelligence because Google is a leader in this area. Honestly, I think Google has the best cloud for machine learning and artificial intelligence. And why? Because our core business is managing information worldwide. And for you to be able to search for images, video, documents, first, free of charge when you use Google search. And we're also trying to create a library of information. So, of course, this requires a lot of intelligence, a lot of computing. So, these products we use internally, we make them available for the public as well, for customers to use. So, we have this automatic auto ML. You can create models based on data you already have somewhere, and Google helps you to label it and train the model it has. So the model is very dynamic. It learns from what you teach the model. So we've been working a lot on that. And secondly, cloud to speech or speech to text. We support over 120 languages. We just added new APIs. I don't know if we have some Dragon Ball Z fans. We're used to the Spanish dubbing. That's available live. Many voices sound natural. And we also have TPUs that are 15 or 30 times faster than GPUs. These are processing units to train models and perform analytics faster. And we can use this with a firewall created by Google. I think this is a simplification of our products, but we also have a Google Workspace, which was called G Suite before, where we have our productivity suites. We have Docs there, which is similar to Word, Slides, similar to PowerPoint, Sheets, which is similar to Excel, etc. So this is part of the cloud as well. It's not just infrastructure. We also like to connect both services. That's important for us, for our products to be compatible with other products and for information to flow. So from the left to right, we have BigQuery that gets connected to Sheets to analyze data on Sheets directly on Query. We have Spanner, which is an app where you can have Cloud SQL or SQL databases, and you can scale it horizontally. We also have API management services. It facilitates creating APIs, manage them, launch them to production, everything you need to produce an API. And we also have Anthos. We talked about data before. And this is part of our infrastructure. So this is the infrastructure all of our applications share, and we share it as well as Google employees. And I think that's interesting. Here you can see some of our products available through the platform, beginning with computing. That's the infrastructure as service system where you can create virtual machines with Compute Engine, as you would use a virtual machine on OpenVox or VMware. This is a very dynamic service. It's very robust. You can create an image easily with a Compute Engine. And we also have different ways there are different things you can do. You can make copies of Computer Engine managed equipment. You can also have all the computing available on the App Engine. You can create an app. There are some limitations in language, but it's pretty robust. We also have our container engine where you can create clusters of Kubernetes and clusters of containers. We also have our container registry where you can store various images for these containers, and Cloud Functions, which is basically a platform for you to run functions. This is important because with some apps, we don't need a computer to run just one function. So this is sort of a bridge between the two. And we also have Cloud Run, which is pretty fast. System to run containers with no limitations. You can use any language if it's a container, of course. So this has to do with computing. Now we're going to talk about storage, managed storage, which has to do with storing objects, databases. We have the cloud storage to the left. It's basically objects, images, media, backups, any objects or non-structured data. Then we have the memcache, which is a database of sorts where you have different user levels. So this is popular in the gaming industry. We also have our non-relational data services. We have Cloud Data Store for NoSQL. And it's very popular because you don't need to worry about data. Cloud Bigtable is popular with banks because it's very robust as a product. There's a low latency with read and writes. We have also relational databases, Cloud SQL, which is basically a SQL on the cloud. So we have various SQLs from Microsoft and others managed here, depending on the data. And Cloud Spanner is just Cloud SQL on steroids. So this gets you to a point where you don't need to worry about managing the services or managing the apps. You have more time to add value to your company or business. This is very important as well, big data. Everybody talks about big data, Spark or different managing services. But I think you need to know that Google advises you throughout the pipeline. We have data ingestion, a Cloud Pub Sub. It's a messaging system, but we also have appliances services. When you ask for a server, you load the data and send it to Google to upload it to the cloud. We also have the data pipe where we analyze the data and then upload it to any database or storing system. We also have the cloud data flow, which is similar to Night 5, which is basically for data flow. We can have various transformations, but mainly that's what it is about. Cloud Dataproc is an amazing service that allows you to upload complete clusters from Hadoop and Spark. And everybody who knows about big data knows that this is amazing because with 2 clicks you can create a cluster when before you needed an entire team to use this. We also have cloud storage and advanced analytics as well as warehousing. Can you go back, please? We have Data Fusion, Data Catalog, and Cloud Composer, which are applications where you can control the data flow throughout the platform. So this is basically how data moves around the different layers of data. We have the data capture that you can do literally anywhere, from logs or audits you have on your platform, data from YouTube, literally from anywhere, from computing, streaming, everything. Then we move to the processing layer where we have apps that process the data using Hadoop or Spark. Then we have storage and analysis and use. When talking about use, we have things like Looker, which is similar to Power BI, but from Google. It's a company owned by Google. I think this is useful for those who are trying to organize a new business or data institutes who are trying to analyze this data to give some meaning to all this data we have on the cloud. So this is what we want people to understand. So the cloud is not just one thing to upload a computer or an image. It's everything. It's being able to give meaning to all the data we get from our customers or the data we get internally because we produce data internally. We can create internal tools to make our company better. So Alejandro, that was quite an introduction. As you see, it is a pretty big platform. We have computing, data storage, big data, and also solutions for developers and tools for developers that we, of course, we can't cover in such little time. So, of course, this is just the beginning for many of you who are just getting started on your path to the cloud. This is a general picture of what Google Cloud is. But of course, you need to specialize in every or any of these areas. So, Alejandro, thank you for that introduction and for explaining the benefits of the cloud, of Google Cloud. I have worked with Google Cloud and other clouds, and I have to say that it's pretty flexible and it has many tools that you can use openly as well. Many of the projects we are using now were created by Google, like Kubernetes. They were created by Google, but now they're used globally. Now we're going to talk about something that impacts the way applications are created, and it has to do with containers. If you haven't heard about containers before, so now we're going to explain what containers are. So Alejandro, I'm going to continue with the section about containers. Yes, of course. But first, I'm going to change the display so everybody can see us. Okay, so what are containers? What is this about? So this is a new way of developing and creating applications. Years ago, we used to create apps where we would put everything in one app. And thanks to these big tech companies like Google, Facebook, thanks to these companies that are used by billions of people, they had to create a better way to implement these applications. And particularly those interested in deploying new applications in the development phase, they needed a consistent environment. So the idea is for whatever I'm creating to work similarly when it goes to production. And these containers also need to be secure and isolated, and they should be able to be run in various applications. So a container is a way to package one application with all its dependency, with the libraries, configuration, etc., in just one package, so to speak, where every process is going to run isolated. For example, let's pretend we are creating an e-commerce because companies want to do that. So you can have a container, the content of the website that the clients are going to use. But on another container, you can have the content that is going to be used by the e-commerce managers. And you can also have the back end, the part that retrieves information from the databases. So you separate all these applications in independent packages. If you do that, they are lighter, they are more secure as well. And the goal is to increase productivity of developers and of the applications themselves, because that will allow these containers to scale up independently. For example, if you have more people using the website and you have less people working in the back end, so you can have another copy of your container and another one that the website uses, because if you have a higher demand, more users, you can create more containers. Now, the old way of creating applications was with no containers. Everything was done on the same server. So the problem was that every dependency was on the same site. That had some benefits. The application could be smaller, use less storage, but they were also heavier because those dependencies could create conflicts. Those projects were also hard to understand because you needed to understand this chunk of information where it was going to be hard to find mistakes, bugs, or people used to say it worked fine in development, it doesn't work on my computer. And this was one of the consequences of having everything in one place. So with the containers, when you put an app in a package, that image, that container, is stored in a directory of containers that you can later use in different environments just by changing configuration. You guarantee that the code you created works. So this means a change in philosophy because you move from physical servers to containers, where containers work differently, isolated. You have one container with its app and its library and another one, and everything is run in a big server where you share some resources. So this changes the way apps are created because we move from an environment where we had shared servers to just one server with independent containers. This is an evolution of virtual machines. I don't know if any of you have created virtual machines years ago. So maybe someone at Windows was able to run Linux on their computer, or someone working with Linux was able to run Microsoft. And those virtual machines require the OS to have a hypervisor, a component that allowed this system, this OS, to be virtualized in the host OS. But the issue is that it was very slow. The virtual machine to run took a long time, and they were heavy. So the need to create apps used by billions of people forced these technologies to evolve, and for technology companies such as Google to create these new container technologies. So one server can have just a container running environment that's going to be lighter and that will allow us to run various containers in just one server. And this became a turning point for computing. Companies like Google that has Gmail, Google.com for searches, maps. You just wonder how are these sites so fast? It doesn't matter if you're in Colombia, the US, the UK, it works fine everywhere. And that's because these apps are built with this container technology. Google launches over 2 billion containers a week, and that allows them to scale up their services for more people to connect and for everything to work smoothly. So this is a better way of designing applications for them to be able to be scalable and to grow if the demand grows. So it's nice to see Latin companies creating apps this way. We are seeing some of those seeds growing in Latin America, how some companies are starting to have a presence in various countries, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Mexico, and you wonder how do they do it? And they can do it because they use this container technology and they develop their apps on these containers. So if you don't understand this technology, we invite you to read more and learn more about these microservices and creating apps with microservices applications. So I wonder if I have many containers, it's going to be a mess. We need someone to manage all these containers. Isn't that right, Alejandro? And I think this introduces us to one of the main pieces of softwares that went through a change that changed the industry radically, and it's Kubernetes. So Alejandro is going to tell us about Kubernetes and GKE and how they facilitate the creation of container apps. So please go ahead. Of course. First, let's talk about Kubernetes. I don't know if many of you know what they are, so we're going to explain it. Kubernetes is a way of managing containers, clusters of containers, and it allows you to focus on applications. So it's a system of containers at a scale never seen before, and as Edgar was saying, we run over 2 billion containers a week. Those could be Linux images or whatever. Gmail runs on containers, all of our documents, everything, even internally runs on containers. And Kubernetes was born as part of an internal project, a Google project. We identified this issue, so we wanted something we could manage better because we have too many containers. So we run 2 billion containers a week, but our IT staff didn't grow at the same level, right? So we were able to keep the same workforce with more operations. So how was this created? The word comes from governor and cybernetic. It has to do with governing or managing your container clusters. So a container is basically a cube, an image that is limited by C groups. I'm talking about this because I think it's better to try to give you an idea of how it works. So it's basically a ship with containers where you don't need different systems to manage the containers. These containers can go in any vessel. So Kubernetes is this huge ship with all the containers, and you can organize it as you want, program it as you want, and it works on every environment. whether it is production, development, testing, quality assurance, it's going to work similarly because we don't depend on the hardware. And this is completely transparent to the hardware. So this is something many companies are trying to do. They're trying to change their architecture for it to work with Kubernetes because it's really simple to use. Kubernetes has basically a journal, so it has a specific setting, and there's something inside always checking what's going through the cluster. So whenever there's a change on the cluster, Kubernetes compare that with the journal and starts making the necessary changes on the platform if there's an issue. Alejandro, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I would like you to explain that this technology is not exclusive of Google Cloud. You can use it outside of the cloud as well. Yes, that's right, and that's important because it was created by Google, but you can use it on any cloud. So, as I said before, you don't need to use it on Google Cloud. You can use it on Amazon, in Azure, and they have different names for this service, but it's the same technology. It's just that you're using different clouds. So that's important to mention because you can use it anywhere, not just on the cloud, but also on local computers as well. I think that's very important because it has created so many jobs. We're talking about people developing apps with microservices and making these packages as containers. So we're talking about people who know how to install Kubernetes clusters and manage that cluster. What they're called DevOps. So we're talking about companies that say we need to change our cloud strategy and our application strategy. We're going to migrate to the cloud and we're going to use Kubernetes. It is about strategy, about planning. So that means creating lots of jobs around these containers and how you orchestrate them. Yes, of course. And I have worked with many applications based on Kubernetes, and it's just amazing. If you update the app, before you finish saying update, it's done. And it's awesome to see it work because the application is running and it's like changing tires on a car that's still moving. Because the car is still moving, but you change the tires and you go on. So it's a great system. So if we talked about the architecture, it's very simple. We have the master API, which is basically a machine that does the changes on the different nodes. So you have your node 1, 2, and 3, or n, any number. Or you can have hundreds of nodes. So how does it work? The pods are the smallest Kubernetes unit, and you can have many containers in one pod. You can have one or millions. There are no limitations to the number of containers you can have in one pod. And these pods are basically systems with a similar function. What are they for? For example, if you have an application that requires various landing pages or websites, when they say, welcome to my website, this pod could have various containers that balance this load. So you don't have an issue when you have too many people in one container. The pod can balance the load. So this is the smallest unit of Kubernetes, and you can have one or more containers per pod. So inside all these nodes, you have the Docker to run containers, and you have Kubelet, which is the brain of each node. Each node has its own brain that communicates with the master API. Alejandro, I'm sorry to interrupt, but when you talk about nodes, maybe it's important to clarify that concept for some people. So basically, a node is a server, a computer. So a Kubernetes cluster could have 4 or 5 computers connected. Those will be the nodes. Isn't that correct? Yes, that's right. So a node could be anything. It could be a virtual node, a physical one, whatever you consider an endpoint, or a virtual machine, or a complete server. So in the company I used to work with, we created this cluster Kubernetes where we had virtual and physical nodes. And Kubernetes doesn't matter, doesn't care. It just computes. If you have computing, it doesn't matter if it's on the cloud, on premise. You can have various nodes. So it's pretty robust. I think that's important to highlight because we're talking about hybrid architecture. We are already seeing companies such as banking. Banks say our client database must be private, must be on the bank network, not on the cloud. But with what you're explaining, a company could have different nodes, internal nodes in their private network and other nodes outside the network. Isn't that right? Of course. So you can have nodes in the company. For example, we have many computers in the office that need that computing. That's okay. Of course, when we talk about more complex architectures, we have to determine if we want nodes to be virtual or if we want the manager to have access to them. So the goal is to provide the application with autonomy. So it can open any program it needs where it has some information. So it provides the manager with more power or capabilities to create robust applications. So what does Kubernetes manages? Programming. You can say, I want this app to function this way. So then you don't need to worry about where did I open the pod or anything. No, you say, this is what I want. And Kubernetes moves the containers around wherever it needs to. And it also scales up to higher containers. You can also reduce the number to improve performance when you don't want to spend that much. And you can also balance the cargo or the load, as I said before. It manages the user load. So one machine doesn't get overload. It also provides authorization, identification. It's super safe because there's no way of having a filter. You can't have someone entering your cluster. It's very hard to give access to someone accidentally. So it's pretty great. It's a very robust platform. So Kubernetes is one thing. Google also offers GKE, which is the Google Kubernetes Engine, which allows you to create clusters with just one click. Literally, you go to UCP, you go to Kubernetes Engine, press create, and then you have a new cluster of Kubernetes that is made of a master and at least 3 nodes, work nodes. So as we saw before in the previous architecture, we have those nodes that do the computing. So when you click on it, that's what you see. So it's basically 4 things, but the master never runs programs. It's just the cluster brain. And with GKA, you can create various copies of these, so that's useful. Because when you use Kubernetes, there's a learning curve. But with GKA, you just need to create the app open it and click, and you have a new cluster. And we reach a point where we have too many clusters. So our platform allows you to create one cluster, and Google takes charge of maintenance of the operating system of the nodes, because the nodes need an operating system based on Linux or Windows. So then you can trust that you have a more robust service, that you're using as a secure network. It's more efficient because you don't need to worry about cloning to GKE or Kubernetes, because there are various versions, and it also accelerates performance. By using JKA, you can create applications faster and they're more robust by automating scaling up. We also have a feature called Autopilot based on the workload expander, based on the work you're doing. So you can feed it with different parameters, like you don't want the CPU to go over 80. So when it reaches 80, it can create new pods, you can create different clusters. It's a great application. I love using it because it's also very easy to use. It's secure. So Alejandro, I think we should provide some examples because this is new for some people. So let's go back to this e-commerce we were talking about. We have this a company in Latin America that used to have servers connected to a data center, and now they want to migrate to the cloud. So first, they can change their apps, they can renew the architecture, put it in different containers. So you have the copy of the website of the back end, you have the various packages as containers. And then Kubernetes becomes the brain of those containers. So if too many users go online, you will have various copies that are going to be created to balance the load between containers. And then Kubernetes creates new containers, destroys containers. It allows containers to communicate with each other. And if your business grows too much and you have too many people, you don't need 3 nodes. You might need 5, 10, 100. And that's what you can do with Kubernetes. It becomes the brain. It manages communications within all those containers. Isn't that right, Alejandro? Yes, that's correct. I think it's very useful for those of you who are trying to migrate from business as usual, no, to have an app that you need to manage all the time. I think it helped many people during COVID that, online services, retail sales grew exponentially as well, and this was very useful. Yes, that's right. Because given the pandemic, many businesses went digital, and this means that companies have to build better solutions because the infrastructure they had before wasn't enough. So that's what creates opportunities. Because these new jobs, there's a high demand for staff with technical knowledge about creating applications with containers, being able to manage these clusters of Kubernetes. Isn't that right, Alejandro? Exactly. So, since we're talking about demand and jobs, I would like us to talk about how can I start a career on the cloud? How can I become part of this world? How can a student in Latin America orient their efforts to work in this area and improve their life conditions? That's why I want to talk about how to get started, how to start your career on the cloud. First of all, there are many areas. There are many ways you can try. You don't need to be a programmer. It is also important to mention that we have different levels. This slide that Alejandro shared with us shows us the way, the evolutionary way, and the various certifications on Google Cloud. For example, a couple of years ago, I started with the Associate Cloud Engineer. It's an easy certification. You can get ready in a short time to obtain that. And from there, you can become a developer, a cloud network engineer, or a cloud security engineer, which of course is specialized on security. Or you can also learn about DevOps, a new position that's being created lately. These are developers that are in charge of managing the infrastructure and automate processes to create new infrastructure. There's another one, collaboration engineer. I think this has to do with the suite. Isn't that right? Exactly. The collaboration certification combines two things. You can work on GCP because there are applications that connect to the Google Workspace, but they will mainly work with Workspace. Then, when you have more experience and you want to learn more, I think you can choose three paths. One is Cloud Architect. I have that certification, and you need more general knowledge about the Google platform. It is recommended to have more work experience in using Google Cloud products and services. Another one that's increasing its demand is data engineering. This has to do with data storage products. Those are SQL based or not, and also Google services. For example, one product is BigQuery that Alejandro talked about before, which is very important in analytics and on data warehouse when it comes about data storage or big data in companies. And that certification, data engineer, has to do with those working with data. They don't need to learn about the other computing services like cloud architects. But of course, cloud architects do need to understand data as well. And there's a new certification, which is a machine learning engineer. I think if someone gets that certification today, they will have a job guaranteed because it's going to be in high demand, this position. Why? First, because this is the age of data. Data companies are storing about their services, their customers. Everything is there. And now, what do we do with those data? We need to create solutions and create systems using those data to improve those products and services. Uh, we see how machine learning it's a subject with various implications. We could have one conference just about machine learning. And machine learning is part of our daily life. We just don't know it. But whenever you grab your phone, if you upload a photo to social media and it recognizes, this is Edgar, this is Alejandro, there's a machine learning algorithm that recognizes the image and it classifies the elements of the picture. When you talk to a virtual assistant and ask if it's going to rain tomorrow, or you ask it to turn off the lights at home, those are machine learning algorithms for speech recognition. Or, for example, We see in other industries, like the finance industries, how data is being used for forecasting, to predict financing models and being able to foresee if something is going to happen or not. And of course, they use it with weather as well, machine learning models. So, what else can you tell us about machine learning and why these certifications open up new opportunities? Yes, yes, it's a hot topic right now. Many people say they know about machine learning, but they don't. But it's really useful. As I was saying before, you can add machine learning to any product. You can provide solutions using machine learning, and it's on high demand because there are many tools that allow you to use machine learning, but not that many people know how to use it. So, someone who knows what it is, how to create models, that's very important because data is the new bacon, as they say. It's like oil. Everybody wants data, but if you have too much data, you need someone who knows how to use it. So I think machine learning engineers are like the ones who used to work for oil companies. Yeah, that's a nice way to explain it. Yes, of course, you can work as an engineer now. Edgar, we lost your audio right now, just now. No, we can't understand what you're saying. We can't hear anything. Can you hear me now? Yes, now I can hear you. Great. I'm sorry, but my earbuds ran out of battery. So, yes, machine learning is changing the world, and you need to start working on it. So, some people prepare data, other clean data, other think of solutions, and the applications are limitless. You can do so many things with machine learning and with AI. And I would like to talk about the possibility of giving a talk about this issue. I see a question here. I'm interested in the data engineer certification. Do I need a previous certification? Well, Gabriela, no, you don't need to. You can prepare the certification as data engineer with no previous certification, but I would recommend, I don't want to talk about brands, but there are courses available. I don't know if you know a website called Coursera that it's also associated with Google. So Google has a platform called Quick Labs when you can go through these labs where you use the products as a practice. That's how I prepared my certification as a network engineer, as an architect. So you can do it by yourself, but of course it requires practice. And when you create a Google account, you get a $300 credit to play a little, to create various machines or services. So you need to spend your own money. I don't know if that answers your question. We have another question from Gabriela about the professional machine learning engineer. Do I need to get certified as professional data engineer first? No, you don't need to, but of course it's related because some data storage products are oriented to machine learning. For example, BigQuery is growing so much that now it is incorporating the creation of machine learning uh, models. You can do it directly on BigQuery, train it on BigQuery, and start predicting right away. So, of course, you need to know more about data, but it's not mandatory. I don't know if you agree with me, Alejandro. Yes, yes, that's right. Of course, many people first get the data engineer certification. You don't need to, but I think you should take some of the courses available on Coursera or and train, because with no data, there's no machine learning. So you don't have to, but it's suggested. Gabriela, thank you so much for your input. I'm happy you're interacting with us. That's what we wanted. There is something I would like to talk about before finishing this talk today. It's about an initiative that we created as part of Dream to Succeed. You're seeing my screen again. So here in the foundation, one of our goals, and Sara has been working on promoting innovation. So we're always thinking how to promote innovation, how to help entrepreneurs, how to help Latin people show their capabilities, know what they can do. They need to be able to show that they can also develop interesting solutions. So I'm working with this innovation center. Alejandro is also helping us support these entrepreneurs with ideas. So today I want to tell you about a new project that we're developing on the Innovation Hub. I'm leading this project because I want you to see that what Alejandro and I have been explaining is real, and that people in Latin America is using Google Cloud, that you can use it, you can create something with it. So this is the idea we started working on a few months ago. Is a network of people who like sports. It's a solution for those who like sports and for sports centers. This is a sector with little innovation, so our vision is to connect millions of people through their passion for sports, help them being active and healthy together. We've seen the effects of the pandemic, how our ability to move around has been limited, how it affected physical activity and well-being. So we were wondering if we could create a solution using these new technologies like machine learning or artificial intelligence. So we started thinking about the problems that face a normal a sports center in any country or city where you can have courts for various sports or fields. So the idea was to increase income thanks to bookings and keep the members engaged. And we also wanted to address the lack of innovation, of technical innovation. So innovation in these centers is really slow. So even though these places can be popular at some hours, they do face issues and it's hard to find a solution. On the other hand, we have players, Mario, for example, from Medellin, Colombia. He loves tennis and he works. He plays tennis with his friends, or he's always looking for someone to play a match with. And there are some apps that allow you to book a court, or you can book a club, for example. But the truth is, it's hard for Mario to find someone that plays at his level and someone that can play at the same time whenever he can. So matching his availability with the courts and an opponent, that's complicated, and these processes can be frustrating. So that's why we thought about these technologies we were talking about before. Can we create a recommendation engine that uses machine learning that can recommend some opponents according to the player's preferences? So, can we create a sports center who has the higher chances of booking a court? This is again about optimizing, of predicting the occupancy of a court. And by using data, the business can make decisions. Sometimes they do campaigns, they offer special prices. We also thought about incorporating quick reserve, quick booking channels. In Europe, Siri, Alexa, or Google are popular assistants. Imagine if in Latin America you could say, "Hey Google or Siri, book me a squash court at the Medellin Sports Center," or things like that. That's enriching the experience of playing with our friends. And when you bring that to the digital world, you provide these centers with the power of the cloud. So that's why we created this platform, which is called iBook We Play. It's a new generation platform for Sports Center and for players that's powered by Google Cloud, and it's improved with machine learning and artificial intelligence. So I wanted to show you this so you can see that everything we've been talking about, containers and applications, scalable applications, and platforms with computing power, that's what you can do with Google Cloud. Give me just 1 second to show you something. We're using the Google Cloud platform to create our containers. So we have a container for the graphic interface, another one for KPIs, APIs. We are using Cloud Roll, one of Google Cloud services, which is pretty easy to use, Cloud Run, that will allow us to evolve to Kubernetes. So here we have various containers. Here you can see matches. Now the container is not running right now. We need to wait for it to run. It's at rest now because that's to save money. You can see the directory of courts, the matches of those sports you're interested in. You can schedule them. You can check the player profile, ask them to become your friends, and you can also enter. We are using the identification service from Google Cloud to provide this platform with a robust authentication system. And of course, that allows us to provide a high quality service, a secure service. So all the services offered by Google are available there for us. So that is why it is important for more and more people in Latin America to be able to create this type of solutions. We are still developing the product. We are at the latest stages of product development, but we are very happy with our application performance on the cloud and how we have been able to reach our goals of creating a platform in an optimal way, controlling the cost, and without being afraid of the cloud. Yeah, here in Latin America, we also have talent to create solutions like they do on Google, on Facebook. You just need to work hard, study, prepare yourself, and improve your skills, your technical skills. That's why I wanted to tell you about this platform called iBook We Play, because it's something real, it works, and it's there available for everybody. We can learn all these technologies. You don't learn this at a university, guys. You need to learn on your own. You need to read about it, follow tutorials, read the books. These are things you can learn. You can obtain the certification with no obstacle, and nothing stops you from getting certified. You can be anywhere in Latin America and you can get your certification, and it will be valid everywhere in the world. So Latin American will become the next India worldwide. What am I saying? You know, in India there are millions of developers. A lot of companies go find the resources there to develop their projects with low cost. In Latin America, we have an advantage. We have similar uh, hours. We have basically the same hours as they do in the US, and there are millions of companies looking for of talents. We are on a similar time zone. So this is something you can make use of. So it's up to you to learn these skills, to obtain the certification and work on the cloud. Don't think about I don't have the degree. No, you just need to learn. You need to work hard. And I'm telling you from experience, I have no university degree and I have been working for 21 years here in Europe. And it's because of the dedication I've put into learning all these technologies. And I'm very proud of that. And I use that to inspire others to do the same. To those of you who are learning, great, that's awesome. Good for you. But university won't prepare you to be a cloud architect or a machine learning engineer for Google or Amazon or Azure. Those are technical skills you can learn on your own. Yes, and just to wrap up, to give you some final thoughts, Google doesn't require a university degree. If you know about the job, you can work with them. Yes, that's true. Here in Europe, that hasn't been an issue for me. They don't ask for a university degree. So there is no excuse for those who think it is hard or impossible. They can improve their conditions. Sarah, would you like to add something before we sign off? I don't know if there are any more questions. Let me check if we have some questions in English, perhaps. But Sarah, in the meantime? Thanks, Edgar. You reminded me of the importance of believing in ourselves. We need to believe that we can build our own destiny. And I think this is an interesting case because companies that want to build a presence in Latin America have the problem that they don't have qualified workers. So we need to emphasize that learning English is important to keep learning. Secondly, we need certifications such as the ones offered by Google because that opens doors for new jobs. We're going through a transition. Maybe what you learned at the university is not what companies are looking for because these are new technologies, these are emerging technologies. So we are going through this transition where universities need to accelerate the process and provide the information needed for students to have the qualifications they need. So this is an opportunity for everybody. Obtain the certification. We are sharing this knowledge with you. If you're interested, call us, send us a message to Dream to Succeed, Soñar es Crecer, and we will provide you the information. I would also like to mention that this was a very special event because it was in Spanish, because that's our goal, because some people don't speak English and they see that as a barrier. So that's why the talk was given in Spanish and we were translating into English. I know some people were connected to our social media in English. They saw some of the slides were in Spanish. But what was more important was the content, the explanations. But we'll see if it's possible to offer these contents in English and post it on our social media for those who wanted it. But our focus, it wasn't just Latin people who needed this information, because we know some English speakers need this information, but it's mainly because for minorities and Latin people, it's harder to access information. There is way more information in English. There are talks, all sorts of information, but we don't have as much content in Spanish created by Latin people as well. So that was the message we wanted to convey today. Great. Thank you so much, Alejandro, for joining us. We're so proud to have you working for Google, representing Latin people worldwide. Edgar, you have been working with so many companies, providing them with the advice to move forward with technology. Thanks everybody for being here. We invite you to share the link to this transmission because it's going to be available so more Latin people can benefit from this talk. We would like to thank our sponsors as well. We can proudly say that our first sponsor, UiPath, is still supporting us. And now we have more than 150 members certified in robotics processes. So we want to have the same success with cloud computing. We want to provide you with the orientation you need for you to work with Google, and that's what we all are looking for. So thanks everybody. Thank you, Sarah. I would like to take the opportunity to invite everybody to connect to our website, dreamtosucceed.us/donate. There you can see what we do. This is a project we are working on. We are working on creating a new platform for the Dream to Succeed Foundation. And this is also an open invitation for everybody to collaborate, to donate, to spread the word, to talk to others about what we're doing, to talk to companies about what we're doing, because we need to support other entrepreneurs. It's important to be able to provide scholarships, to keep developing the Innovation Center and reach more and more people with our events and our contents. So this is an open invitation for you to visit our website, to become part of the cause and become members of this foundation, a non-profit. This is a foundation that doesn't look for its own benefit. Thank you, and thank you, Esteno, for the translation. A big hug for everybody, and we'll see you soon in our next event in September. Great. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for joining us.